you didn't really know it now.
Well, do you know the law,
That's
sir?
when you get him a summons. Absolutely, I'm an officer.
Okay. So, can you quote me the statute?
Don't worry about it. Sit down.
This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by...
Bile, who has been on the show a number of times from blogofbile.com, has been involved. He's not only a Free State Project participant, he's not yet made the move. He's still down there in New Jersey / New York City. And he's been involved in doing some fully informed jury association outreach with Julian Heiklen, who is this nationally recognized activist, almost 80-year-old man that is going from federal courthouse to federal courthouse, handing out fully informed jury association information. Now, Jason Talley is with us here tonight from cdevolution.org, and certainly the Civil Disobedience Evolution Fund, I think, would support folks doing jury outreach. It's not particularly disobedience, but it can be when the cops decide to mess with you.
Right. I mean, I think in Bile's situation, they wanted him to turn off the cameras, but he stood his ground and ended up arrested.
Card? Why don't you sit down? You're under arrest, dude.
For what?
No press card on you. Turn around.
For what?
Turn around. Just
You have no press card. That's what he said.
Listen to the officer.
Okay, I have
Turn
the
around.
press for...
Listen to the officer. Obey orders.
Yes.
So something as innocent as handing out information in a public place, a place where allegedly the public should be free to gather and engage in speech, and handing out a pamphlet certainly would be considered speech, I would hope, by any court. In those situations, it's still fraught with risk. Men with guns could still come and arrest you for something. And indeed, Bile was arrested at one point in Manhattan. Is that right, Bile? You're with us?
Yes, sir. It was at downtown Manhattan.
Mm-hmm. And you were at the federal courthouse with Julian Heiklen. He was also arrested that day. Can you give a brief recap for our listeners that are unfamiliar with the details, and then what happened then?
Sure. So this happened last November 9th in 2009. I had never met Julian at the time. I had just found out recently that he had been arrested a number of times, I think 3 at that point, for refusing to leave when handing out jury nullification information. And he was arrested and taken to, I think it was Bellevue Hospital, and brought to the psych ward because he refused to respond to his arrest. He went limp. As you said, he's nearly 80 years old. He would just go completely limp, non-responsive. And rather than trying to take him downtown, they would call an ambulance. They'd pick him up, bring him over to Belleville, and he would not say anything, so they would bring him to the psych ward. They would do all the normal things like pinching his fingers and yelling into his ear, try to get him to respond. He would wait until like the second round of people to come in, and then he would come alive, talk to whoever was there, and then sign himself out as John Galt or Ayn Rand and just leave. And so I showed up on the 9th to film what he was doing just in case anything happened. I was doing an interview with him after some officers had started harassing him. They left. I started an interview. The federal officer showed up, Clifford Barnes, and I started to back up. He asked who I worked for, and I didn't respond. Julian then butted in and said, well, he's not obligated to say anything. The officer then pays attention to Julian. I walk backwards. I have a spy cam on my belt and a primary camcorder, digital camcorder in my hand.
Smart move. That way, if they take the primary camcorder, they have no idea they're still being recorded.
Right, and I had picked up that camera because of my regular encounters with New York Police Department in the subways and their searches and such. Mm-hmm. And so I was probably 20 feet away, 15, 20 feet away, and the officer, after Julian goes down on the ground and the officer secures his person, he walks over to me and asks, who do you work for? And, oftentimes Free Talk Live has said, well, if an officer or someone asks who you work for, you can always say you're a producer for Free Talk Live. And so I did, and I was instantly arrested.
Okay. Do I have to handcuff you?
No, sir. I'm not.
Sit down. You're going to get ticket too. Sit down.
Well, you're okay.
Sit down.
2 people are holding you.
In fact, if I probably said nothing, I may not have been arrested, because the way that the officer implied after the fact was that he arrested me due to thinking that I was working for some commercial organization. Not that that justifies anything, but that's what I gathered from how he was.
Right, as though a commercial organization has not
fewer rights,
as many rights to free speech.
Apparently.
Well, I would think that a commercial organization, the individuals, whether they're working for the, whether they're there on business or whether they're there for some philosophical reason, enjoy the same rights as anyone else, I guess is probably the best way to describe it.
Right. And so I was arrested. If you look at the regulation, I'm pretty sure it says that you have to be warned. Jason said that I refused to stop filming. In fact, I didn't, because I was never asked to stop filming. At one point in the footage that you can find at youtube.com/blog of bile, it's somewhere in there. Or you can go to blogofbile.com and look at the current posts, and you'll be able to find a link to it. But you can see that at one point another officer says, well, you should have just turned off the camera when we told you to. And the arresting officer actually butts in and says, in fact, I didn't ask him to shut it off. And so the officer at least was good in that regard. He didn't try to make it worse than it was. But so after all this happened, the next week I came back. I stayed on the sidewalk this time, not to press my luck, and they threatened to arrest me again for quote unquote whatever.
Well, I'm just trying to help you out here. They're either going to get it. He's going to, the other guys are coming again, and whatever they did last time with him, it's going to happen again. So I tried to give him the heads up, and maybe he'll leave for a little while and come back and play the game, but he doesn't want to play the game, so, he really has no authority to hand down any jury or court information, because he's not part of the courthouse, so. Okay, and here they are now, so, I gave him a heads up, but he don't want to listen, so. And I know you're with him, so.
Not my responsibility.
Well, I know you're with him, so.
That's not my responsibility.
You're going to get one, too.
For what?
I was not arrested. I wasn't arrested that time.
What kind of time does whatever carry?
Yeah. What are you in for? Whatever.
I'm not sure.
I'm wondering if whatever's a misdemeanor or a felony.
Yeah. So
well, the charge I got itself was a violation, so it may have been just a violation.
I see.
But who knows?
You can get a ticket for whatever.
Driving in circles around Central Keene, I hurl both insults, angry and mean, against the activists from Free Keene, who wander around thinking as though they were free, and even though they aren't hurting me, I will hate them hatefully, urging their appearance in the penitentiary, although that expense would be charged to me. I'm starting to feel somewhat confusedly.